In this video, I'm going to share how we increased conversion rate from 1.06% to 2.51% for an apparel brand on Shopify, and how this allowed us to increase our daily ad spend and our daily revenue by 2x. So without further ado, let's dive in. And just to show you the conversion rate in Intelligems, this was the control group, 1.06%, as you can see from our very first test. And then just over to the last test we did, which is 2.51% as the new group. And I'll just refresh this so you can see as well. And there you can see the conversion rate, 2.51%. All right, so I'm just going to begin with the starting point, just to give you some background and context on the situation. So we're working with an apparel brand. We've been running ads for a while with good performance, but every time we tried to scale, we could not keep our new customer ROAS on target. And if this is something that you are experiencing, where you just try and increase the ad spend, but for whatever reason, the performance just drops dramatically and you can't sustain that scale, then this is for you. I'm not saying the conversion rate is the only reason why that happens, but it could be one of the main reasons why it's happening. So we identified the conversion rate to be one of the bottlenecks that was causing this ceiling for us. And the conversion rate was 1.06%. So we understood that if we can increase conversion rate and maintain our AOV, more website visitors will convert, and not only will our ad performance improve, we'll actually have more room to scale ad spend into, right? So it doesn't just mean that we can maintain spend and get an even better new customer ROAS. It also means that we can do that, but also spend more, right? And fill that gap. So that was a starting point. So here's what we did. And before I share the specific A/B test that we ran, I want to share the three main components of increasing conversion rate. The first one is giving website visitors all the information they need to make a purchasing decision, presented in the way that they want to consume it, and making sure to answer all the questions they have in a way that's easy to find. The second one is presenting a strong offer that appeals to the customer. And third is make it easy and seamless for the customer to make a purchase. There's so many times where I just see websites that are very, very difficult to use. Like even making a purchase, adding a product to cart, going to the checkout is difficult. That is a surefire way to have a low conversion rate, right? So that third one is not to be overlooked. So how do we actually come up with ideas, right? A lot of people, they ask me like, how do they, they want to increase conversion rate, but where do they start? Like how do they actually come up with these ideas to improve conversion rate in the first place? So when we're thinking through how we can apply the three main components, these three up here, to increasing conversion rate, it had to start with A/B test ideas that were backed by data. So the way that we do this is, first of all, we use Microsoft Clarity, which is a free tool that you can use. It's basically like Hotjar, if you've used that before. You install it on your website, and it tracks website sessions, and it allows you to analyze heat maps and session recordings of visitors. So what we did is, we had Clarity installed, and with Clarity, it's best to install it sooner rather than later because it only starts collecting data from the time you install it, right? So we had it installed and we started analyzing heat maps and watching session recordings of website visitors who were browsing the site. And since we knew what pages we were running ads to, we could analyze specifically how the traffic was interacting with the website when they came in from an ad. And based on the main areas that were being clicked and the behavior of website visitors, combined with what we knew about our customers from our research, we came up with a change we would make and then a hypothesis as to why we think that change would work at delivering the target outcome. So basically we did this for every single idea that we came up with as an iterative process. And the hypothesis for each change is really, really important because you want to state why you think the change will work and the lift you think it will give, right? Even if it's an estimate, because you want to be able to see how close you are to your estimates. And also you, in the future, when you come back and look at these tests, you want to be able to look at what your hypothesis was and what your thinking process was when you made this decision, okay? So next up, we ran A/B tests with Intelligems. Intelligems is a Shopify app. If you're looking for an alternative to Google Optimize, since the sunset of Google Optimize, then I would recommend Intelligems. We've tried different ones, different Shopify apps. This is the best one we found, right? So we used Intelligems and we analyzed the data after each variant had 150 orders. Some people have different marks, like benchmarks for this, some more, some less, but we chose 150 orders as a benchmark for us to be able to go in and analyze the data. Based on the data, we would determine a winner if there was a winner. Sometimes there was a draw. And we would move to the next A/B test as a result. And this continuous iteration process allowed us to slowly edge conversion rate up. It wasn't one single A/B test that took us from 1.06 to 2.51%. In fact, it was 6 different A/B tests that did it. And sometimes you're going to have to do more, right? And we're still doing more to get it higher than 2.51%, right? That's not the end point. It's more of a continuous process where you're always competing against yourself to improve that conversion rate. So I'm going to share the 3 breakthrough A/B tests that we conducted that led to the highest increases in conversion rate. The first one was, I'll just give you some background on each of the tests. Our PDPs, they didn't have color swatches on them. If you're in apparel, if you're selling any sort of product where there are multiple variants, colors, flavors, sizes, but not really because that's a given, but mainly colors and flavors, then it's really, really important to have color swatches, right? We didn't have them. And what this means is that customers had to switch back and forth between collections page and PDPs to view different products, right? Just a really, really poor experience. And the heat map and session recording data showed that it created a lot of friction in the buying process and the decision-making process. And as a result, we were losing a lot of visitors. So what we did was we assigned a section for the color swatches and we added it to the PDP. And the results were that visitors used the color swatches to navigate between product colors, and it made the shopping process more streamlined and easier to compare colors. And the conversion rate increased to 1.31%. So we tested, the A variant, the control was the existing PDP with no color swatches, and the B, the test variant, was with color swatches, right? And this is what happened. So the next A/B test number 2, what we were seeing was the data from heat maps and session recordings showed that on our collections page, where we were driving most of our ad traffic to, had a big banner at the top which was pushing actual products below the fold. All right, so we had this banner that was explaining about the product. It had a lot of information, but that was great at explaining the product. But what was happening was website visitors did not know that there were products below the fold. Like they could just scroll down and see the products, but they didn't know that because they couldn't see them. And straight away, they clicked on the hamburger menu to find products. So now they were landing on this page, and then they had to click the menu to try and navigate to the products that they wanted to see. And so to overcome this issue, we tested a smaller banner on the collections page, which still gave visitors context of where they were on the site, but took up minimal space. So we still wanted to make sure that, especially if you have multiple SKUs and collections, you want customers to be able to identify where they are. Like, what is this collection? What am I looking at? And this small banner that took up minimal space led to a great result for us. So visitors used the collections page, they landed on more, and the changes created a more streamlined shopping experience. And the conversion rate increased to 1.91% as a result of this change. And finally, A/B test number 3, even though we had added color swatches to the PDP and they were being used by website visitors, we saw on session recordings, once we had those added, that not all visitors were seeing the color swatches because they were just below the fold, right? They didn't really see them. So they would come to the website, they'd come to the product page, they would look, they'd swipe through the images, and then they'd click back if they wanted to look at a different product, because they couldn't see the swatches and they didn't actually scroll. Not all of the visitors, but a good portion. So we decided to move the color swatches above the fold by removing the product image thumbnails that we had on mobile and replacing the thumbnails with a progress bar. So it's a very thin bar which shows there's more images, and left and right arrows, right? So customers knew that they could scroll through the images. And as a result, even more website visitors use the color swatches, right? Through heat map data, we saw more traction on those color swatches now that they were even more visible, and conversion rate increased to 2.51% as a result. So a huge jump. Now, the really, really important thing to remember is you can make changes like we did, such as adding swatches, right, which do improve the conversion rate for us in our case. But it's also being able to optimize the position of each of these elements that make the shopping experience even more streamlined, right? So by just making a change where we reformatted the product image gallery, which meant that the color swatches and everything below it and above it moved up the fold just above the scroll, that created a much better shopping and user experience. So that is all for the test that we ran to get this conversion rate increase. I hope this was helpful. I hope the process as to how we come up with ideas and actually run these tests provide a lot of insight, and hopefully you can apply the same to your brand. And that's all for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.